Hello, Mr. Angus Wangus back for a video. This is a video that I should have made a couple years ago, really. Basically just to show how to make a Bedini circuit, how to make it the way I make it. I don't spend a lot of money. It's very, very cheap way. And it's basically the way that this fella here shows how to make here on the net. I'll leave the link to this in the info box. But this guy's handle was Daft Man, and he used to put a whole bunch of really good stuff on the internet. Now he also has videos showing how to make the circuit. Other people out there have videos showing them how to make the circuit. And this video that I'm making probably isn't for a lot of people that watch my videos, because maybe you already know how to do all this stuff. But I get a lot of questions pretty frequently on, hey, could you make a video showing how to make the circuit? And I see it on other videos, people leaving comments the same way. So I thought I'd make a video showing how I make the circuit. But first of all, you go to this site, and I'll leave the link down there. This diagram made by a guy goes by the handle Daft Man, and he's drawn it out very nicely, easy to follow. Basically you can print this picture out and glue it onto a piece of wood and tap nails into the wood and make these connections using solder. That's the way I used to do it, and basically it's the way I still do it, minus the picture, you know, cutting out the paper and gluing it on. And I'm going to show you that. That's what this video is all about. Now, just to say, I'm going to show you the parts you need here in a second. But just to say that this neon bulb, although it's, you know, it's part of the design and it has its purposes for protecting the transistor, but it's not 100% needed, this neon bulb, if you make sure you always have a battery, a good enough load of a battery on the charge output there. This variable resistor as well isn't 100% necessarily needed. Now it's in there so that when you hook it all up to your coil, because all coils are different, and your wheel arrangement, and it's all going to be different parameters coming together, you'll use this to tune the circuit to its most optimal resistance for your coil and wheel setup. But other than that, we'll go to the next clip and I'll show you what I'm doing. Okay, back, clip number 2. Just showing basically the parts that you need. This is the variable resistor here. Oh, first of all, you need a transistor. This is a particular type of transistor. What kind it is exactly isn't necessarily important, other than that it's an NPN transistor for what I'm showing you. It can be done with a PNP transistor, just in a mirror of the circuit. This type, I believe this is a TO3 configuration for a transistor. You might also see this type of transistor, right? This one's salvaged out of an old TV set or something, I can't remember. But basically you have your 3 terminals. Does the same job, it just looks differently. This one has 3 terminals, 1, 2, and the case itself is the third terminal. So you need a transistor, you have your variable resistor. Again, not 100% needed except for tuning your circuit, which you'll want to do. This one is salvaged out of something. I can't remember. Next you'll need a resistor. This is a 100 ohm resistor. Again, that's salvaged off a circuit board somewhere. You need 2 diodes, an IN4001 or 1N or IN, and it's 1N. 1N4001 and 1N4007. That's what's called for the circuit, these two little diodes. But again, they can be salvaged off of an old circuit board, and they don't necessarily need to meet the parameters or specs of the ones given here in this circuit. But these ones that are suggested for the circuit are suggested for a reason, and it's maybe best to follow that. But other diodes will work. Here's that neon bulb we were talking about that's not 100% needed, but we use it. You're going to need some wires, little wires, a little nut and bolt, a little screw, some little tack nails. I'm going to use little smaller ones than what's here. I ran out of them. But you get the point. Now, what I do basically is what Deathman shows. I'm pounding some nails into this. This is a 5 centimeter square piece of wood, and I'm going to fix the transistor to it, and I'm going to show you how I do it very cheaply, just as effective as other methods. Now, other people you might see out there use these breadboards connectors, and they make their circuits with those. Then now they're very handy to have and give you lots of advantages for testing and switching out components and things like that. But I was just sitting here making a Bedini circuit for my machine. I don't call it a wheel anymore. It's turned into a machine. And there will be a vid in the future of that. But I was just sitting down to make a quick, tidy little Bedini circuit for that. And I thought, oh, I'll make a video showing how I do it, right? Because it's easy, simple, and it's cheap, because I'm a cheapskate. Okay, so those are the parts you need, and I'm going to go to the next clip, step by step, showing you what I do. Hang on. Okay, back. So the first thing I do is take the piece of wood. Well, I've drilled a hole in the middle so that I can put a screw through there and put it where I want it. So you'll want to be aware of where that is and make sure that you're able to get to it. But what I do is I pound 4 little nails into the piece of wood, 4 up one side and 4 up the other. Now these are going to be your winding connections on this side, and these are going to be your battery connections on this side. You have a charge battery and a run battery, positive and negative for each. And you have 2 windings of your bifilar coil. The trigger winding, start and finish, and the run winding, start and finish. So that's what I do. First step is that I get it all set out like that. And now I orient them, start trigger winding, and then the finish of the trigger winding, and then the finish of the run winding, and the start of the run winding. And on this row of the battery connections, first I have the charge battery, these two, positive then negative, then the run battery connections, positive then negative. And I sort of do it that way just for simplicity's sake. Started doing it that way. Because this is how they're shown in the diagram. So here are your 2 windings, here are your 2 batteries. So the charging, positive, negative, run, positive, negative. Oh, light. Where am I? Just like I've done, charge positive, charge negative, run positive, run negative, the 4 terminals. And then for the 2 windings, what are we going to do here? So you see both. So the start of the trigger, then the finish, and the run finish, and the start of the run. And if you go look at this diagram, you'll see, right? So these are in the same order as we see here, and these are in the same order as we see here. That'll save confusion. that's how I started doing it, and I just continue doing it that way, right? I really don't need to label these, but because I've made so many. But that's how I do it. That's the first step, getting those 8 nails pounded in there and labeled like this. So now we'll go to the next step and I'll show you what I do. Okay, back. So basically the first thing I did was put these little nails in, label what the little nails are for our windings and for our battery connections. So now next what I've done is I've taken that little transistor, and you're going to want to make sure that you orient it the right way. There is a top and there is a bottom, and you'll see that these terminals here are actually fixed closer to the top. They're not exactly centered in that transistor, so they're closer to the top. So that's the top, and that's important because knowing what the terminals are. Now you can punch in the numbers of your transistor and find out from a diagram. But basically this is the base, this is the collector, and this is the emitter. Now basically what I've done is I'm connecting to the top there because this is the collector, the case. But what I've done is I've just taken that small screw and I've screwed it into the wood and secured the transistor to the wood. Now that screw isn't touching anything except for wood, so it's isolated nicely. And then what I do is, in the hole in the top of the transistor, I take that little bolt and nut and I take one of the wires and I squeeze it in there, right? Put the wire on there. That's so that you can make a connection to the collector terminal, the casing. The casing, I can't remember if I've actually tried to solder to that in the past or not. I don't think so. But what I think will happen is if you try to solder to that, is that you'll make this so hot you might damage your transistor. So I always just connect this way, and then I can solder this end without that being a problem. So there's the first couple steps, putting the nails in, labeling it, and then affixing the transistor to the little block of wood like that, and making a connection that you can solder on the transistor. Pretty simple. Okay, we'll go to the next step. Hang on a second. Okay, back. So now the next step is what I do is I'm going to put this diode on. This is the IN4001 diode, and making sure that you notice that there's a little stripe on one end. That's the negative end, and you want to attach that to the base of the transistor, and the other end you want to attach to the emitter of the transistor. So we'll have a look at what I've done. And that's what I've done. Next is this little diode right here. You can see the little stripe on this end. That's the negative end. I've soldered it to the base of the transistor, and the other end I've soldered to the emitter, right? And then I've just bent it up to get it out of the way, right? A little bit. So we've got that diode on. Now let's have a look at the next step. Okay, we're back and having a look at the circuit diagram again from Daft Man. Now we're going to we just put this diode on across the base and emitter of the transistor. Soldered the two ends on there. Next, what we're going to do is put on this diode. This is the 1N4007 diode. And if you look closely, you can see that the negative end of the diode with the little stripe is attached to the positive terminal of the charging battery, and the other end of the diode is connected to the finish terminal of the run winding of your bifilar coil. Now there are other connections there to be made, and we're going to do those in a second. But what I want to show you is just putting this diode on. So I'm connecting the negative end to the positive terminal of the run battery, or the charging battery. So let me say that again. We're connecting this IN4007 diode now, and we're connecting the negative end with the band on it to the positive terminal of the charging battery. And the other end, without the band, the positive end of the diode, we're connecting to the finish terminal of the run winding of the bifilar coil. And so, let's have a look at that. Alright, so there we have it. We put this diode on a second ago, right, across the base and emitter, keeping in mind that the negative end of the diode goes to the base. Now what I've done, just like we saw in the diagram there, let me get this light fixed, is that we've connected the negative end of this diode, the 1N4007, to the positive terminal of the charge battery, right? And we've connected the positive end of the diode to the finish terminal of the run battery. So we just put this diode in. First this diode, then that diode. We have a connector on the collector. And that's what we're going to connect next. Hang on. Okay, that was quick. Well, let's have a look at the diagram quickly. Okay, so we're looking at the collector. Oh, where's my pencil? There it is. The collector, which is the middle terminal here, which we have a wire connected to with the bolt. That connects to the positive side without the band of this diode, the 1N4007, which also connects to the finish terminal of the run winding of your bifilar coil. So basically we're taking that wire that we connected to the collector shell of the transistor, and we're connecting it to this side of the diode. And that's what we've done. Basically right here. So we have this diode on, the 4001. Here's the 4007. Is connected between the positive terminal of the charge battery and the finish of the run winding of your bifilar coil, but also we have that connection from the collector of the transistor to this positive side of this diode, as well as the finish terminal of the run winding of our bifilar. Okay, next step. Okay, so next step, we just connected the collector to this side of the diode. We had put this diode in and this diode. Next we're going to put the resistors in. You can see there's a fixed resistor here and there's a variable resistor here. The variable resistor isn't absolutely necessary. It's for tuning your circuit to the coil that you have in the arrangement, because they're all different. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to have a variable resistor in here so I can tune my circuit to my coil. But then once I find the resistance that I need, like I'm going to tune it to where it wants to be, optimal for the coil, concerning input and output. And then I'm going to take that variable resistor off the circuit, and I'm going to test it with my meter to test the resistance of it. And then I'm going to get another fixed resistor, and I'm just going to, of that value that I find on this variable resistor. Now remember, you have this value plus this value if you have a 100 ohm resistor in there as well. So what I'm going to do is add them together, get a fixed resistor of that value, and just connect it from the base of the transistor to the start of the trigger winding. So basically what we're doing here in this step is we're connecting a resistor in between the base of the transistor and the start of the trigger winding of your bifilar coil. So I've done that. So this is the base of the transistor right here, and we already have that diode on there, the connection coming off the collector. We've put this diode on. So now what we need to do is connect the resistor. This is a 100 ohm resistor, just like it shows in that diagram. One end of it to the base of the transistor on this side of the diode, right, to the base of the transistor. And then on the other end of that resistor, we're connecting the variable resistor, just like it shows in the diagram. You want to have a little linkage from the middle terminal to the right terminal of your variable resistor, just like in the diagram. And then what's that connected to is the start of the trigger winding of your bifilar coil. So we have the resistor connected to the base of the transistor and the start of the trigger winding, just like in the diagram. And I just soldered them on there just like that. We already had the nails in and they're already labeled, ready to rock. Okay, we'll go to the next step. Okay, next connection I make is from the jeez. Okay. Not enough room on my coffee table. Next connection, we just put the resistor on, right, from the base to the start of the trigger winding. So now what we want to do is make a connection from the finish of the trigger winding of your bifilar coil to the positive side of this diode or the emitter of the transistor, right? Remember, we took this diode and connected it between the base and the emitter. So we want to connect the finish of the trigger winding to the positive side of that diode and the emitter of the transistor. So I've done that. We'll have a look. So from the finish of the trigger winding, I've just connected a little wire, right? And it connects to, there we go, and it connects to the positive side of that diode. This is the negative side. This is the positive side of that diode. And it's also connecting to the emitter of the transistor. So you want to take a little wire and connect from this nail over to here. There we go. Next step coming up. Okay, next step is putting in this little neon bulb. I use them. You get them at Radio Shack. Here in I'm a Canadian, so here in Canada it's called The Source. It's the same as Radio Shack. You can get all these little parts at Radio Shack. Or you used to be able to. I haven't been there in a long time. So next we're going to put this little neon bulb in, and again what it does, its purpose is it semi-protects your transistor for if you don't have a battery on the charging output. But if you always have a good load battery on your charging output, you don't really need this. So if you don't have one, you can get away with it. But I use them and I like them, right? It's part of the circuit. So basically we're going to put that in now. So it connects one end to the negative of the run battery and the other end connects to the positive of the charging battery, or the negative end of this diode as well, you'll see. But basically it connects from the positive of the charging battery to the negative of the run battery. And we'll have a look at that. So there we go. I've attached this. This is the neon, right? There's two ends. One end is attached to the negative terminal of the run battery, and the other end is attached to the positive terminal of the charge battery. Simple. So there we go. And we have more connections to make. Be right back. Okay, so we just connected the neon bulb from the negative of the run to the positive of the charge batteries. Now the next connection we want to make, there's another connection from the negative of the run over here to the emitter of the transistor, right? It also connects to the positive side of this diode, but we have that diode in between here. So this connects from the negative of the run battery over to the emitter of the transistor. We'll have a look. And that's what we've done. Next, here's the neon, right? And it's going across from the positive of the charge to the negative of the run. There's that next connection to the negative of the run, or from the negative of the run to the emitter of the transistor. How can I get light on this thing? To the emitter of the transistor, this terminal. And it goes to the negative of the run. Just a little wire, right, connecting those. So that was the next connection. Now let's go to the next. Okay, next connection. We did the neon across here, and we just connected the negative of the run to the emitter of the transistor. Now the next connection we make is just a little tiny one, straight from the positive of the run battery to the negative of the charge battery. This little connection right here. Have a quick look at that. So from the negative of the charge to the positive of the run, right, we place this little loop right here, and that's all we really needed to do. And that's a little longer than it needs to be, but I want it to be visible. So we've connected from the negative of the charge to the positive of the run. We'll make the next connection. Not too many more left. Two more, I think. Alright, be back. Okay, I'm back. So, the last connection we made was this little tiny one between the positive of the run, negative of the charge, that little connection. Next, we're going to connect from the positive of the run to the start of the run winding on your bifilar coil. Now remember, when I laid out the nails on that little piece of wood, I put them in this order, right, to make it simple and less confusing. So we're connecting from the positive of the run battery to the start of the run winding. And we'll have a look at that. So the last clip was showing this connection from the start of the run winding to the negative of the charge, just that little loop right there. So this connection that we're making now is from the positive of the run battery and it comes up here, over here, to the start of the run winding, right? So we've connected there, the start of the run winding. Just looped it over to the positive of the run battery. That's the connection, and I believe that's all of them. Let me just have a look here. Yeah. So you have them, now we have them all connected. This is a Bedini circuit. It's that easy. This is basically all made out of garbage, except for this. I bought at the store. Oh, and those little diodes. But all of it can be salvaged from old circuit boards. This is a salvaged transistor from an old TV set, an old one. So basically we put down the 4 and 4 nails in that order from the circuit diagram. And we started out by putting the diodes on, and the resistors, and the neon, and making the connections. And it's it. It's not that overwhelming. This is how I made my very first one, using a piece of wood, putting nails into it. And this is how I still make them. I'm not too proud to still make them this way. These cost a little money. And unless you get the right size one for your project, if you're going to make something permanent, you know, that might be hard to find or whatnot. I don't know. But I really like this, doing it this way. And again, I'm not too proud to have a circuit made out of wood. At least there's no zip ties or duct tape, right? Yeah. But yeah, it's that easy, guys. And for this video is for anyone who, you know, is interested in the Bedini idea, wants to make the wheel. You know, you're not intimidated by making a wheel setup. You know, that's not hard either. But maybe you're intimidated by the circuit. It really isn't that difficult. It's like following a recipe, kind of. And it's very easy. It doesn't have to be difficult. This looks maybe primitive, but it works. It works just as good as the breadboard. Now again, there's advantages that you're going to have with these breadboards and things like that. But yeah, this works just as well. Now again, I'm going to be putting this on my machine, tuning it, removing the resistor, checking the resistance, right? And then putting a fixed resistance in there. So it won't be all this sloppy appendage over here. But less sloppy, I guess, maybe. So now when you hook this up, you know, you're going to have two batteries, a run battery and a charge battery. And you hook your run battery up to these two terminals, the positive and the negative. And you hook your charge battery up to these two terminals, the positive and negative. And you have a bifilar coil, Bedini coil, right? And the start of the trigger winding, you want to connect to this terminal. The finish of the trigger winding, you want to connect to this terminal. The finish of the run winding, you want to connect to this terminal. And the start of the run winding of your Bedini bifilar coil, you want to connect to this terminal. And then you spin the wheel and it goes. And this is how you do it. That's how I make the circuit. It's quick and dirty, fast and easy. Even with making this video of this didn't take me that long. But there you go. Very cheap. It can cost you nothing. You can spend a little money on the breadboard type arrangement. And again, that's a good idea. It gives you other options and things like that. Makes things easier perhaps. But this works too. And you can do it for nothing, which is my favorite kind. There you go. I thought I would finally make that. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment box. I know this video isn't for everyone. You know, lots of you out there already know this stuff, but just want to make it less daunting perhaps for people out there who want to, you know, are interested in these things and want to give it a whirl. It's not hard. It doesn't have to be hard. And it's fun. Once you get it hooked up and you get the wheel hooked up and you can start charging batteries, then you can start experimenting with it and maybe buy one of these or change components. There are lots of guys out there testing and experimenting. And there are new concepts to be tried with the Bedini Energizer wheel, believe it or not. I watched a video on one yesterday from my buddy Everybody's Eye. And there are new innovations, believe it or not, even with the Bedini circuit and wheel. It may seem that it's been beaten to death, but it hasn't. There are new innovations to be made. And I have one going on my machine as well. And you'll see a video of that in the future. There you are. And there are a lot better informed people out there to talk about this. I'm not gonna sit here and try and tell everyone I'm some sort of guru on this stuff. I just don't do that. But if I can't answer a question for you, I will link you to someone who can. And I'm not so proud that I don't do that. So there you go. Whip one together and you can start experimenting as well. There you are. There's my quick how I make a Bedini circuit video. And I hope I showed as much as I can. I probably forgot to show things or neglected to. You guys can point that out in the comment box, I'm sure. But there you go. Quick, easy, quick and dirty Bedini circuit. Doesn't have to be hard. Thanks for watching. And I hope this gets at least one person motivated to give her a whirl if they're interested. Thanks for watching. Take care. Have a good day. Bye.